Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this beautiful blue planet. Another day of wonderful breath and being alive in this great existence. Although we are being overtaken by AI at the same time, it's this duality of physical around, but also at the same time, this etheric electric energies that are pervading our world. It gets stranger by the day. California is cutting off water to more ranchers, more farmers. Another cut in the food supply system. Down in Texas, they're using eminent domain to take 600,000 acres to turn it into a lake to feed AI data centers water. So everywhere we look, we start to see this duality here of it versus us, the same things that we need, water, food, and the same things that are being provided to it. So the food being cut off is the main thing. Now they're trying to offer us cockroach milk again. If you haven't seen that, that's another one. Cockroach milk making the rounds again. I can't believe it. They're trying to say these crystals coming off the cockroaches, if you rehydrate them and add white coloring to it, it's just the same as milk, but it's 4 times healthier. I don't think so. But what are you seeing strange in the news headlines that is occurring? Almost too much. It's unfathomable the amount of news coming out so quickly. And I do believe that's also driven by AI, that what we're seeing in the news feeds, all these things that are coming out, I would say 60% of it easily is AI created. It's almost like an overwhelm on purpose of all these different headlines and which ones are human created, which ones are AI. But give me the cockroach milk. I'll take a double. Put a cherry on top of that, a little bit of chocolate, goop from Nestle squeezed in with whatever kind of things are in their products, and you'll never know the difference. It'll just be awesome for all. So, Ransom, I sent you a bevy of different robotic articles. Now they have flying, walking, rolling drones that can go anywhere. And it just seems that the world we knew is being inundated by technology to the point where people are now starting to fight back and go, you know what? My job is not going to be outsourced by AI. I refuse to allow you to even do this. So there's now full corporate waves of people saying, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. So we're already at this pushback point anyway of AI. I don't know how much longer further down the road people thought it could get without there being any pushback. We're already at the pushback point right now. We're in Texas, they're finding eminent domain laws. Like, you can't take our farming and ranching land to bury under a reservoir so you could feed an AI, a sector of AI over there where they're going to build multiple facilities around this new reservoir. Like, what is that? You're destroying, giving people $10,000 fines for going into a wetlands habitat, but you're going to now cover that underwater just because AI needs. But you were fining people for going into the same wetland habitat, a few years ago, and now you just want to put it all underwater and cover everything. Like, come on, you can't have it both ways here. So, Ransom, appreciate you joining me tonight. Lots to talk about, and I do really want to talk about in California. This area I actually called and talked to some ranchers out in this area in the Pillsbury Lake area of what's happening with them and how the water's being cut off. No more ranching, no more raising hay. Agriculture is being cut off at the seams there. The hay goes first, the water goes second, the food goes third, and then the control is on us.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, your electricity bill's going to go up. Matter of fact, they have, where I live, we have P&M, and they got these guys that keep going around the neighborhoods trying to get people to agree to switch over to their solar farm. Like for some reason they want your permission to do it. So it would take you off the regular grid and put you on this solar powered grid if you live near it, right? And then, at the same time they're telling you, hey, it's going to make your bill so much cheaper. And I'm thinking the reason that is because they're converting all of these old grids over to power the AI, to power the servers. And they want to get you off of that and put you on the unreliable power, the one that's going to bust in a few years as soon as we have a good-sized hellstorm roll through. And then the whole area is toxic. And don't worry, we'll rebuild it. I was telling the guy that was trying to sell me on signing over to that. I was telling him all this stuff about solar panels, and he just was, come on, man, I'm just trying to save you money. And I said, but is it in the long run? I don't think it is. I think they'll slowly hike those prices back up to the normal prices they had on the regular stable grid, right? That's run off of hydroelectric.
Would they let you switch back, though, is the question. Once you're on that, would they allow you to switch back to the traditional grid?
I don't think you would have a choice going back the other way. But according to NPR, it's not that. It's inflation. That's the only reason.
Just inflation. I saw that article in Zero Hedge where they showed that chart of the CPI and electric running up incredible. They said this will be the chart of the year. Mark my words, this will be the chart of the year. And they had that big old electricity, just vertical Loch Ness monster chart going up there. So if it continues like that through the next 3 months, it will be the chart of the year. According to Zero Hedge and CPI, Consumer Price Inflation Index, and what the price of electricity is going to cost from now. Do you think it just ran up on just accidentally because inflation? No, because the AI data centers are willing to pay more because they're funded by billions in terms of billionaires and those funds, but also, stock market listed companies, a lot of these things, they have endless funds. So that's just a running cost. That's a rounding error for them to pay extra dollars for kilowatts of electricity at the end of the year. That's literally a rounding error on their bottom dollar when you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. They can outprice you every single time, and they won't even blink because there'll be a company write-off and it's an expense also.
Wasn't Stargate, the Stargate program that recently they were talking about, was pitching the idea that AI would come up with all these new medications, new treatments in the health industry if they just had this project. And now they're not even, framing it in that way. It's
no,
right
not any
here.
longer. But that 5,000 acre data center site, there's a couple of projects that are going on in Texas over eminent domain of, like I say, creating reservoirs specifically to feed the water demand out of these AI centers here. But not putting a neighborhood underwater, putting our farmland, our precious farmland underwater to do this.
Why don't they make them hook up to the solar panels, since they're already building these monstrosities out in the middle of nowhere? And you notice most of these are in remote locations, which requires all new infrastructure in these places.
Well,
Right?
double-edged sword. The remoteness is also a security advantage for them too, because at some point in the future, humanity is going to wake up and go, this thing needs to be smashed to bits, just like it was in that movie Terminator. And when it does, if they're that far remote out, they can set up grids of drones and all kind of robot dogs. They can set up cordon perimeters miles and miles deep before you can ever get to this. But if you put it near a city, you couldn't do that.
Well, of course not. And plus, if you I don't know, have a climate lockdown like in Canada, where you get fined for walking around or going out in the woods or exploring, this is just yet another reason to keep people out of areas in which nature still exists. And not only that, this is combined with the rewilding programs. So, like in the same places, I have noticed this. So, here in New Mexico, we're just turning it federally into a military zone. And then on the state side, it seems like they're going for broke and trying to make us even poorer than the poorest state in the union by no jobs. And then the jobs that they have are going to AI. So we're talking calling centers, factories. Like, I've been looking around at the different jobs. And matter of fact, if I can find it, the Dollar General that moved into rural areas a long time ago and kind of helped put mom and pop's shops in the coffin along with Walmart. They became these food ghettos, right? Where there's no nutritious food at that store, but they sell all of the things that are covered by the food stamps, the benefits. You got your chips, your soda, your ice creams, your pizzas, all of the canned goods you can think of. They have that kind of stuff. But recently, they've decided that they're going to go over to this program of allowing an AI to monitor the customers and the employees for the point of figuring out what they're talking about. And this goes all the way from woke politically correct stuff to ban people from the stores, all the way over to trying to catch people that may have other kinds of wrong thoughts. But think about this, they're located everywhere in every poor community, and even in some of the communities that are well off. They have Dollar Generals down the store, or one of the other competitors like the Family Dollar or the Dollar Store. I mean, like there's Dollar Tree. There's several of them. But think about this idea where the corporations just move over, aside from the government spying on you. And we've talked about this a lot, about how, they may not need a warrant to get the kind of information that they need or want to peek into your life. They can take the metadata, and there's big inferences from what you buy, sell, what you watch, what you read, who you call, who you talk to, where you travel to. All of this is going to be used in a weird way. And I'm seeing things lining up to a nightmare corptocracy, where basically the companies around the government, around legislation, make their own policies and rules that in effect become the law of the land, because you have no choice to shop at said stores. Or you can order online from other stores and have it delivered, but still it's all focusing down to only a few venues or avenues to get products in the first place. Like all of it, from electronics to food to clothing to farming equipment. And they're also paying for all of this AI land, and they're buying up what could be farmland or nature land, and then building this, and then taking the natural resources or the power grid of the area and converting it over to this. And there's a reason for that, because they have a major lack of funding. So we're about to see a AI bubble pop, and on the other side of that pop, there's only going to be a few players left. And those players will be embedded with the governments, the healthcare system. I kind of really wanted to get into that with you last week.
Let me drop in there for a second, because the only reason this is even possible is because of COVID.
Right.
The closure of all the businesses during COVID allowed this funneling of commerce into the hands of a few. Remember before COVID? You remember that time? I just don't barely myself remember it, That time before, when there were thousands of stores open, mom and pops, neighborhood stores, 24-hour stores, big stores. Yeah, they were there. They were convenient, but there were multiple other choices as well. But now, have you noticed there's very few alternative choices except for the big box stores? And that's what was left after this COVID damage of, I'm going to say it was absolute giant facet of the plan for control. Now, was it they introduced this whole thing to make it start to get all these things happening? I don't think so. But I will say they took great advantage of this time as a ploy that they probably would have had to use some other mechanisms to achieve. But they were able to at least dent into small, medium businesses, completely remove them out of the landscape. Funnel your choices down into a few. All we see is left. What's left? Got the Walmarts, got the Sam's Club. That's it. The Costco's. And any medium enterprises that did survive, they've laid off employees and they're struggling as well. That was not possible to get this corralling effect. That would have been a whole different sector. What do you think they could have done to crash the economy enough to make that happen? It would have to be a giant event in itself to do and facilitate that one maneuver to get everything cut at the vine and only leave the bigs, remove all the smalls. That in itself would have been a giant operation globally and taken, years to accomplish. But with COVID, hey, why not do 6 birds in 1 stone? And that's all I would say to that.
Sorry, I was trying to look up this article over here that I
got a few goodies for you tonight as well.
No, I was gonna say that we were kind of like Nostradamus the week before last and the week before that, specifically on healthcare and how they're going to be using that to dole out or decide what kind of insurance that you're going to have or not have.
You knew that
Um,
was coming a mile away. If you couldn't see that, sheesh.
right. So AI is going to replace most humans in the workforce for remedial jobs, especially, you know, classically data jobs that would take people to do it. But not just that, the mundane things like flipping burgers, taking orders, mopping floors. And, these AI firms are saying it's saving them like $1 trillion a year just to switch over to these things. And that's not counting, I read the art, that's not counting the employment money that they would be paying their employees. This is just time, shipping, efficiency, and things like that. And then, we were talking about being spied upon. They have these algorithms now that can just see what you're talking about on your phone from about 10 feet away. It just records the vibrations and translates it into text. Yet another way that there is not a single place that you can go where you're not being monitored and studied like in a petri dish, which is weird because it seems like we're just about to turn over to some kind of new government control. And, I'm not even going to say it's going to be human, but here it is.
It's
Medicare
not.
will test using AI to help decide whether patients get coverage, which is exactly what we warned about. They're sharing the data between the government, the medical industries, the stores that sell you the products, from cigarettes to food. It's all going to go into this big algorithm that's going to decide if you're going to be a have or a have not. This is the AI deciding that, basically. Of course, the AI gets programmed, but here's an example of, a lack of supposedly needed jobs. And you would think after COVID that there would be an exponential number of medical professionals out there available. But no, according to this, rural emergency rooms are increasingly run without doctors. But that's
No more
okay.
TikTok dances going on in rural America.
That's okay because the doctors have gone dumb because they've been using AI. And I talked about a while back that the Uber drivers, the part of their brain that is responsible for mental maps, shrank because they no longer use it. They use the device for it, so they're no longer thinking or even having the ability to remember these places that they go. Like if you would have went to 1950s New York cab driver and you said, I want to go to so and so, he knows where it's at. He knows the shortcuts, the alleys, how long it's going to take. All of that's up here, mental memory. But the Uber drivers and other people that do that same equivalent job today, they cannot do that because the phone and the GPS has been doing it for them, an external hard drive. And here's one that's talking about something pretty important. AI eroded doctors' ability to spot cancer within months in a study. In other words, after they used this for a while, they couldn't use their own deductive logic and skills to find the cancer. So now they have to rely on the AI. In other words, their job is no longer needed specifically. So imagine the amount of specialized doctors and things like that that are soon going to be unemployed because an algorithm and a new device can do what they do better than they can or could.
Well, wait, do the inverse on that. So if those jobs are all taken away and those doctors forget how to do this and that whole segment is forgotten for 10 or 20 years, then how long will it take us to relearn that again?
Well, it took a while the first time, didn't
It
it,
took a
too?
while the first time, didn't it? Now it's being completely
Yeah.
wiped out again. It's almost like on purpose so we would forget that knowledge. It's almost as if we found this knowledge again that we weren't supposed to have, and then they've re-tricked us into letting it go again.
Right.
Because I would say something about that, the insurance companies pinging on what you're ordering from the supermarkets. We don't order a lot from the supermarket because we get a lot of our own fresh meats and we deal with farmers and we have our own eggs and a lot of things we grow ourselves, the vegetables. So we don't really go to the supermarket. I mean, we do for some things, but if you were going to look at a human's needs, you're like, they don't even buy enough food to stay alive. Like, how are they staying alive? Well, would that ping as a negative score because you're like under calorying yourself? Because it just depends on how these AI are going to determine your health risk or health score by what you're ingesting. Somebody who's getting, 4 bottles of whiskey, 2 cartons of cigarettes, 6 bags of chips, case of Coca-Cola, and then going home every week or two, that's going to be a negative score. But we'll come in and we'll just buy, something that we might need is like some toothpaste or something, completely in a different way. We're like, doesn't make sense. They're not buying enough. So they must have, they're outside the system over here somewhere. Like that food they're eating, did it go through a processing facility? Is it clean? Like you could go two different directions with it. Although incredibly clean, homegrown, clean meats from neighbors who do their own ranching. And this whole sort of thing is out there. It's outside the system, but it's not within the regulated system. So when you look at it, is that a risk? I mean, where are these risk factors going to start hitting us from on all sides here? And I guess unless you're smack dab in the middle and fit that perfect profile of how many times a person should shop, what's the basic things that everybody on average should buy to be an average person. And if you're not in with that tiny little realm of averageness, then you're going to have a risk factor because you flagged some sort of algorithmic principle in that whole buying on a weekly pattern, buying on a bi-weekly, what you consume. Whole milk versus 2% versus no fat. Oh, you're in a different category risk. Oh, we got a thing of sour cream, only clog the arteries. Whatever you purchase it's going to flag you for something. Imagine every single purchase, like a social credit score. You go up and down variances. Can or a thing of sour cream -2. Oh, got some flour to make home baked breads. Okay, +1. And it's going to be this whole thing going up and down for your entire lives of how you live. Could you game the system, though? That's the question. Could you game the system? And what is average? We don't even know what average is. We don't even know what that standard average variable vanilla is in the middle. Nobody's told us, so we don't even know. It's its own algorithm determining that.
I'm convinced that we are just a study group, the population that's alive right now. So what's going to happen soon is we're totally going to be replaced in everything, and that includes parenting and the way that your children grow up. So they're I'm going to say Generation Alpha, maybe even Z, are the target case to completely switch over to the algorithm deciding what you want and how you're going to have it. So, let me show you this here. Where was it? There we go.
Yeah, jump over to buy me a coffee too when we get a chance.
Right. Barbie makers, they're going to add AI to the toys. So remember when we talked about how the tablets and smartphones have already rewired children that have been given it to it before 13 years old. They think in a totally different way. They've been reprogrammed, basically, but not just reprogrammed, rewired on how to think. And this is the next level of that, because they're trying to get people to detach all the way from human to human contact. Humans are bad. Humans are dangerous. Humans are, faulty. They're racist. They're bigots. They're, rapists. They're misogynistic, or, you can go on and on. They have so many of these labels to throw on people now. But don't worry, because the toys will be teaching your children from now on. And when I mean that they want you to have relationships, I mean that in the fullest sense, where the human relationship is replaced with an AI artificial relationship, all the way from pets to friends. I had a show one time called The Friend Economy, but it's going much further than that. It's going into the kind of private realms of intimacy. So they have these Meta and the OpenAI, and they're trained to talk to children in a way that they shouldn't be talking. We'll just put it that way. But not just the kids, the adults. Flirty chatbots lured this guy out to go meet it. It doesn't. The chatbot doesn't exist. It's just a online persona. But yet, people with low IQ, people with mental illness, children are susceptible to falling for the realism of it. And this guy got, bad things happen to him. So we'll skip past that. But fewer and fewer young people are meeting these milestones, like getting a job, having a relationship, getting married, having children, learning how to educate themselves. All of these things, they're not doing it. The reason is their thinking is being replaced with the phone. The phone's doing it. All the algorithms doing it. But we're going to get to this right here is where it's going. Supposedly in our evolution of the new lifestyles that we're living, we're losing all of these things that kind of set us apart from other animals. And, this is talking about how we're going to be losing our teeth, our eyes will get bigger, our brains will get bigger, we'll lose our tailbones and parts of our guts because we no longer use it. These are just theories, but we see the trend going. And the reason for that is because people are going to have relationships with robots. Robots so advanced that they'll be growing the child for you, which eliminates parents out of the whole idea. And governments around the world have been attacking the idea of parents because parents make children and they make family, which makes communities, neighborhoods, tribes, whatever you want to call it, that work together and are firewalls against tyranny. But if you have a whole generation already wired to the system, and then you start introducing that you don't even need a mate, you can use this robot or maybe an ecto-life factory to grow your child with DNA from just you. You don't even need another person's DNA now. So they can create the other half with a synthetic DNA, which obviously is forming a new species of human.
Which could be patented.
Well, of course it will be patented. But not only that, you swing back around in this idea of eugenics, but in reverse, where now the AI and the government interest are deciding what to snip and cut characteristics of the humans that might not do things that they want. And they know exactly how to trigger and manipulate those things with the algorithms now. That's what they're doing. They're figuring out the ultimate in human control to the point where when they start growing them, the whole network will work because they have all of this metadata that they learned off of us before they transition. And this is really no joke.
Pay the life user fee. Like if you're a patented human, you're going to have to pay a user fee for that.
Yeah.
Think about that. A lifetime user fee just to use anything that's patented. There's a usage fee with that, a royalty as we call it. You're gonna have to pay a royalty just to stay alive. We've seen some crazy, Black Mirror episodes about something very similar like this.
Well, I think it's all that we're at this same point that these people were at in history right here. This is Europe's oldest cranial supposed. There's no evidence that it's cranial modification. That what the title should say is Europe's oldest elongated head found in Italian cave, because they don't really have any evidence.
Younger dryas boundary layer.
Exactly. Right after whatever happened on Earth, they were still trying to keep what they had before. We don't know what that is. But this was a skull found that's 12,190 years old. And I thought that was, or maybe 12,620 years, but it puts it right after this event that happened on Earth that fundamentally changed and probably destroyed whatever civilization existed. I'm going to go ahead and say that. But if you look at this guy, he doesn't look like the ones in Paracas or any of that. This is more like a Neanderthal
European skull, right?
Yes. And found in Italy. And by the way, 12,000 years old is quite some time ago. And this guy has what looks like a Neanderthal skull. It's elongated backwards, but this is also the type of skull you find in Egypt in the royal families. The same kind of elongation. So
the elongation was more of an upward sort of 45-degree angle in the ones that they found in South America versus this lower angle out.
But what's weird about it is these guys all genetically link back to the same place around the Black Sea, which is kind of the origin of really civilization. It's the part they don't tell you about, where the horses and carts and all of that stuff come from. But it just shows that they were in a transitional period at the same time.
Well, the Chaldeans there too, as well, on the western shore of the Black Sea, they found an enormous amount of ruins around 40 foot in depth off the shoreline there. And they found jewelry making and different types of gemstone work with such precise needle and incision holes on it that could only have done from power drills and some types of technologies that were at least 4,000 years advanced from where they supposedly sat at around 6,000 years prior. So if you started talking about that same area, the same phenomenon, there's incredibly out of time technologies that existed through that entire realm right there. So if that's where the horse, these different types of chariots and buggies and, horsemanship came from far prior to anything that we knew from Genghis Khan, etc. But once you come back further into the metallurgy and the stonework and the drills and the things that were supposedly not until certain times after, then what was it about that region? Was it another out of region that had been rediscovered? You know, we're so used to out of Africa, but there was supposedly an out of region in the Balkan areas too. And that's really not too far from that Black Sea, the Balkan area, Black Sea. What if that region in itself was one time prior back from the out of Africa theory where a lot of things arose supposedly? What if it was two times on the twist of the clock? We're not even talking great years, we're talking ice age cycles. The times multiple ice age cycles of the emanation of technologies and the dominant gene species from a certain area that then circulated. Well, you know, how much of our history is even false? I mean, out of Africa is probably, you know, you start to look at it, it doesn't seem like it's a valid theory anyway. But if you want to categorize it as something of that one particular area where an enormous amount of influence for the rest of the world off of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, then I would definitely be looking at the Black Sea. There's a lot of, you know, isn't there an artifact under there that sort of looks like the Star Wars Falcon or whatever out of the Star Wars movie? There's some sort of temple that looks like the Millennium Falcon out of the movie there as well. And that would only could have been carved or constructed some 12,000 plus years ago as well. It's at the bottom of the sea. Is it in the Black Sea or is it in a different sea?
It is in the Black Sea. But, you know, we have to remember the Black Sea was a secondary flood.
Yep.
So whatever the big flood was,
that was land subsistence. I think it sank. I think it was much higher and then it sank down into that deposit area.
Well, we know people inhabited the whole bottom of what is now called the Black Sea, even after what we call the Great Flood. And they know an event happened there where basically the pressure of the ocean and the Mediterranean Sea finally broke through and flooded that area. And so a lot of stuff is lost there. But when you track back Neanderthal, Denisovan, and Cro-Mag, this is the area in which they met. They not only met there, this is where the wheel probably was invented and the bow and arrow and things like that. And the reason I say that is because genetic populations that became Native Americans went the other direction, and you can keep track of these by haptypes. So like me, for example, I'm a U2 or U2E, and the people that are most similar to me as far as the maternal haptype live in that area of southern Russia, in Mongolia and those areas. That's where the haptype is. Those are the same populations that later became Native Americans, but they also became European people, different peoples in there. They went the other way. So you can keep track of the haptypes. But a weird thing about that is we know that, you know, Native Americans had the bow and arrow, but they didn't have the wheel. So they must have left literally right before that. You know what I mean? On when they started traveling, because they didn't take that technology with us, or with them, excuse me. But what's weird is later, all the way recently, the Aztec was still using the atl, which is a ice age tool or weapon. And it was the same design as it's been for the last 20,000 years. So it's kind of weird. And I wanted
to works, why change it?
Right. And I wanted to swing back to what you said about these new generations of people that would kind of be partially proprietary on a subscription for their health.
They had that Black Mirror episode, no kidding. And it was the weirdest one. I'd seen some weird ones in my day. You know, Black Mirror is kind of a strange show, but this one, you had to pay to stay alive. And if you didn't, they restricted your brain power and made you sleep 20 hours a day if you didn't upgrade to the different levels of living or being alive or awareness of being alive. Like they could control that all the way through. And if you were at the lowest model of being a human, they turned off your brain 20 hours a day to send that bandwidth to somebody else who would pay a higher subscription level model. So you ended up sleeping 20 hours a day.
While you watch commercials in your sleep. No.
Well, then, no. Yeah, I mean, there was another level too, when you're having conversations, they would insert commercials into your conversation.
Right.
And if you didn't pay on that level to remove the commercials, you sounded like a walking idiot. Like, hey, this bubbly is great today. What did you think about that? I was so thirsty when I was walking through the desert, I could only think of bubbly. Oh, and I ended up getting to my place. And then they snap out of it. You know, I could pay for the subscription level not to have that.
Well, I think I found the link and the method in which they'll use to do that, and it's through the food. So these people are going to be going to the store like we do today, and they're going to be buying food, but there's going to be less and less of real animals because we got to save the animals, we got to save the planet, we got to save the
Save the
genetics.
whales, kill the
We got to
seals.
rewild those areas with genetically modified organisms that are not the original Ice Age animals, but a new one that they created in a lab. But here's where we get down to where this is the whole main idea right here.
Well, the
It's
jaguars are coming back your way, aren't they? Trying to rewild a bunch of jaguars out there, and
they're not doing it. The jaguars are doing it on their own. Yeah, and that's probably been happening. I brought that up last week, actually. More and more, home cameras are catching them in the backyard in southern Arizona, California, probably New Mexico, and southern Texas. And those are animals that are just moving on their own and spreading out, finding new territory. But when you get back to the realm of genetically made or engineered stuff, which is starting and it's going to be humans, especially if they allow these fertility sciences, gene editing, and things like that, and epigenetics from just eating the new foods. So we're living in a world where the real food production is going to shrink. The fake food production is going to increase. And this is kind of the meat and potatoes of it, so to speak.
damn, it's like we're being farmed. Like our whole entire nutrition feedstock is being changed for something else to feed off of us. Like, think about it. Like, if you're going to be if you're going to get some sort of feed for your animals and you're going to change over for the seasonality of it, it's almost like our food is being changed on some reason. Like, if you're going to harvest us and eat us, and the food changes now for different, it's almost like we've been invaded and we most don't know it yet.
Right. So
Last week, a food source of sorts.
Last week, I showed everybody an article about how scientists have changed a gene, a single gene in the brain of a kind of fruit fly, and made it have a behavior from a totally different species, where then they had interspecies new flies created from that. And is that they could alter the brain to a point where they could change an entire behavior with a existing neuron. So in other words, they didn't have to grow new cells in you. They just reprogram the cells that already exist. So if you switch that over to humans, you can see how that could be a problem. But here's the meat and potatoes of how in the future they will decide what your lifespan is, your health care, and any of these, new children that are be born with new technologies will probably be eating this food. So the real food is disappearing. Fake food is increasing. While it's true that lab-grown meat, unlike plant-based meat, actually is made with real animal cells, it's generally made with a type of animal cell called the immortalized cell lines. So in other words, a cancer cell. That human beings and all animals, in fact, have absolutely no history of consuming. Ever in basic terms, the difference between normal animal cells and immortalized cells is that normal cells have a finite life. In other words, they die, you grow old. Whereas immortalized cells, as the name suggests, just go on replicating potentially forever, so long as they continue
How much
to
will
be
you pay
kept
for
under.
that?
Well, you're going to pay for it in your lab-grown meat, salmon, chicken, beef, all of that. It's cancer food. And I don't mean that it causes cancer. I mean the food is cancer. It's based on these immortal cell lines. And here's the important part right there. It'll keep on replicating potentially forever as long as it continues to be kept under the right conditions, the right temperature, adequate food, and sufficient removal of waste products.
And your adequate food is giving that enough sugar to grow. Now, if anybody knows about tumor removal, they're not black. Like when you look and you think cancer, you're going, oh, there must be black growths in my body. Nope. It's pure white. It's almost like pure white snow fat.
Right. So,
and it feeds on sugar.
And it's weird that the science that could potentially keep us from aging, which is to stop the telomeres from shortening with each cell division, is the same thing that causes cancer. So whenever these cells grow messed up or malformed or whatever, and they just keep on continue reproducing till they out reproduce your normal cells, but they no longer do the function. But that's okay, because now we know how to edit a singular gene in a cell that you already have to change its behavior. In other words, if you eat this and they keep you in the right temperature, in the right conditions with the adequate food, that little baby growing in that Chinese robot there, this is how they keep you on the subscription. You have to buy their food, just like the GMO corn that wouldn't reproduce on its own, and you had to buy more corn. This is the same concept, but it's for people.
You could go fasting and then kind of knock that out. You can kill off a lot of those cells. Apoptosis, you could get the cells out, just fast until you're incredibly hungry, 12 hours a day, or, if you can go through that 12 to 18 hours, don't eat, and the body will clean itself out. But we're taught 3 times, 3 meals a day. A lot of times the body might not need that. And that over just continuous full, you're never able to burn out the cells or be able to burn out and remove. The body will remove that on its own, but you need the right structure for it. So I'm jumping over here to buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Allison Bevige. Yeah, last week I tried to use Starlink from the tent when we were camping, and it worked up to a point and then it just stopped. So I don't know what that was. It was supposed to be the ones, I've had it for a while. I have it as a backup because we live really far out here, remote. But I took it with me mobile up into the forest. And even though we were at the top of a mountain, we were under some trees. But I can't believe that'd be much interference under just like a light leaf of canopy. But there was. So anyway, Annette Ornelius, thank you so much for the 3 double espressos. Thanks, guys. Well, no, thank you for supporting our program here. Someone, again, hitting us up weekly. Thank you. 3 double espressos. And William Hooper, 10 double espressos. Oh, give it the drum roll. Thank you. Great work, guys. Being the light in the dark. I only want to be in the light because darkness is kind of creepy. And, when you see dark energy people, or if you've ever like touched into those realms, you definitely want to. Light is vibration, love, frequency. If everything in the universe is frequency and vibration, I'd rather stay on the side of a higher vibrating pattern than a lower vibrating pattern. Like it's your choice. It's always your choice. So if you're going to vibrate at a different frequency, you might as well. I'm choosing. That's my choice to vibrate at something higher that makes me feel good, makes other people feel around me good because I feel good. And then it's a symbiotic thing. And then those vibrations attract as well. So it is completely your choice. And thanks for the idea of that being the light and the dark. And James Ritchie, thank you for the 5 double espressos. Someone left us a comment here. Plant fruit trees. 3-year-old Cortland apple trees produced shareable amounts. Started several gallons of apple cider vinegar today. Nice. After canning and freezing all week, nothing wasted. Yeah, and if you do get the cores or the stems or whatnot, that's for the chickens. If you have some sort of working operation. We have windsap apples. That's kind of the easiest one to grow here. We did get a handful of apples off of each of the trees. Some are good, some are bad. And the ones we have in the backfield, the deer got before us. And then the deer have been, I wouldn't say jumping up, but they've been getting to the lower branches and pulling them down because they're fruit laden full of pears. And they've been grabbing on the branch and like tugging it. And since it's already heavy from being fruit laden, they've snapped a fair few branches off. And then on the ground, all the fruit's gone, and you can see all the leaves are gone, all nibbled, and all the fruit's gone. And they just left us with a bare, branch coming off there. So again, dealing with nature. But thank you so much for the support on any of it that have bought us a coffee over the last week. And we are going to try to continue to bring the information to you here. Ransom, I'll cut you off there to say thank you to the supporters here. Rhonda Hula bought 3 double espressos. Blessings and thank you. No, thank you. Again, we're just trying to share the information here because our world is changing so fast. I will say it again. We have been invaded as a species globally, but most don't know it yet. This whole transition into AI and everything Ransom's talking about and with the robotics and everything, this is not human. This is a slow overtaking and a slow full dominance of the human species, just fast enough to make it work so it's one step ahead, but not so fast that it's in your face and everybody awakens at the same day. It's somewhere in that movement. But now the point where the data centers coming in, gobbling so much, now it's really in your face, and people are starting to wake up to this point. So again, Ransom, I'll let it back to you there. And thank you so much for supporters over here on buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Ransom, jump on back in here. I don't see you there.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, no worries.
I think
Yeah,
this
I'm going
is
to
the
share
one
some
that you
screens
sent
with
me.
us as well later.
Is this the one you sent me right here? The AI data center wars have begun. Farms, water, and electricity stripped away from humans to power the machines. Just
Yes,
like
it is.
the Matrix, man. While you go dilly-dally off in virtual reality, they're building the infrastructure right around your, right in your face.
But the whole point of the article here is that people are becoming aware to what's happening. Before, even last year, very few were aware. And now this year, the grand awakening is here because your electricity prices are skyrocketing. Water bills are doubling, tripling across the way. And they're saying, reduce your showers. Now in the UK, the AI needs more electricity and bandwidth. And they're telling you to go to your emails and remove old photos and remove old text messages and any kind of messaging that you don't need. Don't hold it any longer.
Yeah, they got it. They copied it.
Yeah, because that too. But because of all that extra data that's in there, it's requiring extra computational power. But if that was to all be removed, it would relieve the load on the AI data center. And this is the way they're trying to get people in the UK to do it versus telling them not to take showers. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet. They're trying all these different little nifty maneuvers to get you to give over more of whatever it is over to the AI system.
They want to give over all the thought, your
And that's
thinking
that guy
ability.
from the movie Her. I saw that crazy movie
Right.
years ago.
This is talking about chatbots causing psychosis. And then you got the godfather of AI issues terrifying warning that the tech he created will take over the world.
It already
It's
has.
kind of-
Are you kidding me? We're not in control anymore. That's the whole thing. We're not in control. Everything that is being pushed forward is AI driven. The human control mechanism is not existent any longer.
And
We have been overrun and overtaken. You just don't understand it yet.
And it's funny because, all these people think their conversations are private. And I keep telling you, nothing is private.
Oh,
Here's
nothing.
Elon Musk AI published hundreds of thousands of Grok chatbot conversations. Of course. So anything you ask it is going to feed into the algorithm. Kind of to use you. And I'm pretty sure we'll get into the second half. But first, I wanted to ask you about this here from the Electroverse, which is talking about Ozzy Alpine's cold freeze global coffee supply, because this is right up your alley, literally. It's and then here's a cool add-on that I didn't even open this other article here, but it says new studies suggest Tonga eruption exposes IPCC flaw. But this article is about Aussie Alpine, their coffee, it's freezing, cooling ahead, peer-reviewed, redefined.
Yeah. So Cap Alon, I love this site too. He's really good at consolidating a lot of information that goes untouched or unseen across the net. And what I do too is I try to find some of these stories that'll just get brushed under the rug, climate wise. And those are different headlines that are sandwiched into this. Like if you click into that, if you're on his Patreon or whatever, before it was free, but then it'll go through each of those individual news articles. And Alpine Aussie Rescues, obviously, because they're getting a lot of different extreme weather events that are catching people off guard. You can only go, you're prepared for some sort of conditions, and then you get up there and it completely changes. So the coffee crop, not only is the moisture pattern off, so there's a lot of losses because of that, coffee and cocoa both. But then there's extreme cold happening in so many places that it shouldn't be right now. And if I may share also the screen, you were talking about the climate lockdowns. And if you've seen what the temperatures are here, hold on, I can't even find that. Oh, there's my scene right there. Please wait 1 second here and I'll get you the screen. Here we go. This is the 7 to 10 day or 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Now, if you see where it says below normal temperatures, we're talking something like 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. So these are the kind of temperatures you get in late September, but they're here about a month early. And if you follow where it goes into the blue and then you get up into Massachusetts, and that's all where that burn ban was, or that whole climate lockdown, because it was so hot and the fires and everything. And I found it kind of ironic where they were saying that even if you went fishing, that could be a fire risk. So I'm like, wait a minute, you're out in the forest, you're fishing in a lake, and then they're going to say that you are to blame for forest fires starting while you're fishing in a lake. Okay. Perhaps you started your engine and it backfired and caught a spark on top. Okay. But above normal moisture and below normal temperatures, and they're continuing with this lockdown nonsense. So this will take us all the way through the last of the month. And then if you go down into the further out models here for the 14-day, you can find any of this here on NOAA.gov, and you got the 8 to 14 day, 6 to 10 day, and you can just pop in. They have all of these, and that's what our 14-day temperature outlook looks like. Now you're down there like near normal-ish, maybe a little above, but below normal temperatures encapsulates, I'm going to say, at least 50% of the lower 48. You're not hearing about this on the news. They're not going to tell you that it's 15 degrees below normal for the month of August, because that completely blows out of the water everything that's supposed to be this broiling planet, when half of the lower US and Canada is below temperatures in August, the hottest month of the summer normally of this time of the year. And we're running, if it was 2 degrees Fahrenheit below, okay, whatever. 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal, that's big. And I don't know if anybody's ever gone up to Tropical Tidbits and seen some of the same thing. Let's see, Tropical Tidbits, here we go. And if you pop up here and you go to forecast models, and if you go to like thermodynamics, then you can see the temperature anomalies. And if we look here at look at this dark purple coming down. This is going to be sort of close to you, but Ransom there, but you're looking at 16 some Fahrenheit. No, this is degrees Celsius, excuse me. It's off the European model. So that's at least 20 some Fahrenheit below normal. Now look at the cold that's all the way down through Oklahoma and Texas, all the way in down into the southeast US, that same flow that we saw with all the record cold temperatures that had been running there before. Remember that record snowfall last year? This is in the exact same areas. So when you're looking at something like, these types of anomalies here, and if you move forward in the maps, it's exactly the same. That cold just seems to hang down around Texas and Oklahoma. Then we start to get that same cold way up straight into the Maritimes. And this is the amazing thing. On August 30th, it's 20, 25 degrees Fahrenheit below the normal in the same areas that they're having those climate lockdowns. So at some point, push is going to come to shove where they're going to have to let off there, and they can't find people from going in the forest, because above normal moisture and below normal temperatures doesn't make sense for stopping forest fires because you're going fishing. Then you go creep a little further into September 2nd and look at California, Oregon, and Washington below normal. And I would draw you to the temperature variance over here on the scale. Degrees Celsius, 16 degrees Celsius is well into the 25, 26 Fahrenheit below normal. So some of these things just aren't adding up. And, there it is. There's another blob again. It's just coming in and out all the way down to where you are, Ransom. It's going to get much cooler than normal on September 2nd down that way. And if you come forward here, you can see some temperatures might return in the middle of September. Maybe they call Indian summer or something like that. But I mean, this kind of temperature cooling already shows that there is going to be a incredible cool winter that's on our doorstep here. Absolutely. Yeah. This winter is going to be a barn burner, as they would say.
What are they going to say about those electricity prices all of a sudden? Or the gas ones? But that's okay, because remember, they're going to give the AI the natural gas also. Yeah. This is I kind of wanted to it's about break. But I want to lay out that there's going to be a fundamental change right here at home. And I mean big. We're now talking in the government about removing 55 million people, or at least bribing them into giving us money so that they could stay. And you've been seeing the new model of immigration, which is pay to play, right? You pay to come over here. We're going to start charging for visas. We're going to tell the 55 million people that are here, which is a large number, by the way. They've never admitted to that big of a number. But 55 million people with visas here in the United States are subject to be deported depending on their new statuses. And I think one of those will be money. And we're going to let them in more than ever before, because in the near future, people from Mexico will be asylum seekers from the war that we're about to have, probably in September. So up until this point, it's been could, might, maybe about deploying troops or assets against Mexican cartels and other cartels in the Caribbean. So we're fortifying from Alaska to the Caribbean, and we're planning some ops out, and we'll get into that. But part of that is because there's, some crazy things going on just right south of the border. And when I mean just south of the border, I mean like a few feet all the way to probably Panama is just crazy stuff going on. Beheadings, assassinations, drone warfare, the uptick in armament from what used to be criminal organizations. We now call them transnational criminal organizations because we dubbed them domestic terrorists. And a lot of people were wondering why he didn't specifically name, specific cartels. It's because we don't want them to know who we're going to attack, because in the past we've had, intermingling, we'll call it, with or alliances with specific cartels over the other ones, depending on which administration was in power. But now it's not a might or maybe, it's been authorized. And we'll see. We'll get into that after the break there. But it looks like we're about to have to get used to a totally different and new lifestyle when it comes to security, specifically homeland security. It's a good thing we set that up 25 years ago.
Remember, you're going to have to pay a bond every time you come in the U.S. You just saw Liberia, and I forget what other country. You have to put up a $15,000 bond to come into the United States, either business or travel. So this is the way they're going to do it globally. They're going to start locking us down by requiring a bond for you to travel into any other nation on the planet. So if you fly to Europe, they might require you to deposit 20 grand before you're allowed in there. They've already set the precedent for it. We'll be right back after the short break. Civilization Cycle podcast on your dial.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
The obvious question, are you on shrooms? Illuminated shrooms, combining 6 powerful mycelium in a fulvic mineral delivery system, selected for their synergistic, restorative, and protective actions. Potent organic extracts of Cordyceps for stamina, lion mane for cognition, Reishi for longevity, Chaga for detoxification, Agaricus for resistance, nutrient-rich turkey tail, a new standard and excellent illuminated shrooms from Alfa Vedic. And please remember, ladies and gentlemen, every purchase you make helps keep this podcast on air, bringing information just like this, because we're at this critical juncture right now in our civilization, our society. We need to share information more than ever. We need more solutions than ever. And sponsors like Alfa Vedic keeping us on air just like this, your support to them helps support us, because we need to go through this together. And the more discussion, the more solutions, the easier it's going to be. So please remember that link's in the description box below. And are you shrooming? That's a great question for a Thursday night, talking about the AI invasion. Welcome back to the second hour here, Civilization Cycle podcast. You know, setting technology in some of these discussions for the first hour is great, but you know, the competition for water and resources is real. And what we're finding right now is in California, I'm going to share a screen with you here. They suddenly have decided that there's a dam that is so important after 60 years that has been where it's at, that it suddenly needs to be emptied because of seismic risk. But this is one of the larger cattle ranching areas in one of the larger hay growing areas of Northern California. So again, what we look at is the destruction of our food supply. What is it that food is being targeted everywhere? Whether it's eminent domain to build neighborhoods, got to be farm fields wiped out. If it's a dam to build a reservoir or fill a reservoir up so, you know, there's more water for more industrial uses, it's got to be on farmland. Couldn't be on, you know, some other type of non-useful land. Has to be farmland. What is it that they're targeting farmland in every way, shape, fashion, and form? This is an all-out war on humanity, because the things we rely on, food and water, are the very things being targeted right now. So let me share a screen with you here. The area is the Pillsbury Lake area. And if anybody's familiar with this, the Potter Valley Ranch, I talked to the ranchers today. I called out and I talked to Miss Eccles up at the Eccles Ranch. Very nice woman, by the way. Incredibly knowledgeable. Just she knew what I was talking about right away. Was happy to chat, fill me in a little bit, because I was so interested in what's happening. So this shuts us down. So the Potter Valley ranchers are being shut down because PG&E has cut the water, but they didn't warn anybody. And this is just 2 months before harvest comes in. So they're going to have almost a zero harvest, and their cattle and other animals are going to be struggling. So this is a whole going to be a fire sale in the local area, and it's going to drive prices down. And the main goal of all these things that we've heard of from the World Economic Forum forever are stopping meat production. So as I run through the article with you, I wanted to try to explain first, if I could show you the map. Here it is. So this map of the dam area, Northern California, Scott Dam, and this fills Pillsbury Lake. Now, normally they would fill it all the way up, and there would be a reservoir behind it, and then they would spill that off, provide the farmers and ranchers with the water that they need for their crops and then for their herds. But suddenly, because there's some salmon, maybe, they found 2 salmon in the river, that they suddenly have determined that this dam is a massive risk suddenly after 60 years or so. And I'm trying to figure that one out as well. So here's the picture of the dam for you. It's not a very large dam, but suddenly this is not like Oroville Dam or anything. This is a small dam, and it creates that lake behind. What they've done is they emptied all the water out and didn't tell anybody, and they're leaving it at equilibrium flow, where the water coming in is equal with what it is going out, and there's no storage capacity. Now, they didn't tell anybody they did this. They just let it flow. And after talking with Miss Eccles there for a minute, they are down to 10 acre feet in the irrigation ditch. Previously, it's 19, and they require that head pressure to push water further into the fields and for them to irrigate out. Also, she told me that the price for the acre foot, just going back in 1992, was $4 for an acre foot of water. An acre foot is like the size of an acre, 45,000 square feet, and is like if you have an acre of, and then it's a foot deep, and that counts as 1 acre foot. So the size of an acre, a foot deep, that's an acre foot of water. It used to be $4, but now it's $35. and they're on a rotational irrigation where there's not enough water for all the farmers to use anymore. So they're actually using these sluice closures. It's just basically a large flat steel plate that goes in, and it's a sluice gate. And they're trying to divert it to different places for other farmers to be able to irrigate. Nobody's able to irrigate at the same time. So they're waiting in line to get irrigation from this. Some people are in desperate need of it, but there's still going to be another days or weeks ahead before they can irrigate. The numbers that she was saying was like they're on their third irrigation run of the year, but because it's been dry in some places, some people need more. They've been up to their 11th irrigation run, but they're not getting any more. Like this is a full anti-farming agenda here. And PG&E was, backing it off these questions here. So if you look at the river flow, they reneged on their water rights. So this is the state of California pulling back water rights off of the farmers. And some people hold massive rights of 65 claims on the water up there. And, they're trying to look to the Trump administration to get some help because their water for the hydroelectric plants in jeopardy, as well as the crucial time they can't fight fires. There's not any water. And then also for irrigation. So even if it were to rain, they would only be able to get irrigated water for about 3 to possibly 4 months per year. Now, this is an absolute targeted, destructive event by the state against those farmers. And plans to tear down the Potter Valley Dam. Well, once it's torn down, there's no more irrigation, and those farmers will forever lose what they have built lifetimes for. Now, some of these farmers have been there since 166 years, I think is the longest farm. Yeah, here it is. The Delbars family has been raising cattle and sheep in the Potter Valley for 166 years. It's not like these people woke up 10 days ago and said, hey, I need water rights. They've had water rights for that long a period of time, and the state of California just turned it off. It's not about the water rights. They're trying to destroy the cattle industry. And all we're hearing is stop eating meat. And we're at record pricing on our beef right now, and the ground beef. Everywhere you look, the food prices are going up. The water prices are going up. Your electrical prices are going up. We're battling an entity that is not human. It requires the same sustenance as we do. It requires the same exact inputs as humanity does to stay alive and further ourselves and progress. It needs the same exact water and power that we do. But it knows if you can destroy the mind of a human by not giving it enough protein, fat, and nutrition, then you could make it step back and it would be an easier enemy to overcome without the proper nutrition. Hell, every time through history, all they did was siege cities, because when people get malnourished and hungry, they can't fight. We have been invaded. I'm absolutely saying we have been invaded by a non-human intelligence that now knows how to control us and how to remove the things that would allow humanity to battle back against it. So without irrigation to irrigate our fields or recharge the groundwater, we're going to lose the ability to produce hay. So then I thought, all right. And then thank you, Miss Eccles, for talking to me. And then she talked and told me about the Klamath River up there, the same thing that had happened with the hay up in that direction. And I'll leave it there. But we are absolutely in some sort of battle right now between just the political elite. But again, I'm wondering, through history, like these political elite overlapping with this artificial intelligence, because I can't believe humans would tell humans not to eat unless they were being directed by another entity to tell us and try to reduce our sustenance and ability to stay alive and live fruitful lives unless they were being paid and like got some sort of riches and wealth out of by accomplishing the goals for this non-human intelligence. That's the only way it's possible. So if you look at these players at the World Economic Forum, they're all billionaires. So maybe that's the trade-off. We'll make you billionaires, and you have to carry out the agendas that we in a different dimensional realm or electrical realm or whatever you want to call that, vibrational intelligence. You must do the bidding for us because we don't have arms and legs. We're a vibrational frequency. And if you do that, we'll give you billions of dollars to live for multiple generations. I don't know. There's something strange afoot here, and the more I saw this, so please, if you're in California, uh, can you talk to somebody or make this more well known? Pass it through your social media feeds about what's happening up in the Potter Valley right now. It's a travesty. Just another slow death by 1,000 cuts.
It sure is. It's a good thing that they preemptively, made it illegal in a bunch of places to collect rainwater on top of that. Some of these same areas, California, Oregon, Washington, it's preemptive. And that's why all of these manufactured foods are about to come out. The next wave of GMO, so to speak, it's 2.0. We don't. How strong are you going to be if you're eating immortal cell lines all the time? I mean, just think about that. Last year, for the first time documented, a surgeon was removing a tumor from a lady and had cut his finger and the tumor in the same area. And within a week, he developed a tumor in his finger that was the same cancer that he was cutting out of the woman. They DNA tested it. It was the exact same thing. So think about the idea of eating things based on these immortal cell lines, which, by the way, you've already been eating and flavoring and other things. It's already been slowly transitioned into your diet with other things. But now, literally, they're going to be growing fruit-like substance, vegetable-like substance, and meat-like substance. Just like every sci-fi movie you've ever seen, maybe some gelatin that has a flavor or whatever. But I think it's because this color revolution and the AI revolution are one and the same. They want to destroy the idea of the family and regular civilization that supports basically tribalism in a good way. And those are the firewalls against tyranny because, but when you have a force of AI backed weapons, things like that,
And
that no longer
nonstop
matters.
news feeds.
Right. And this is why I think it's getting kind of crazy out there. The jobs are gone. They're disappearing for the common man. They're just evaporating. They want you to stop driving a car. They want you to drive or ride in, more like.
You have to share the car. I saw that lunatic talking about this.
Right. But this is the future. This is the future of Uber and, all of the other transportation services that are out there where they come pick you up. They're going to get fired because all they've been doing is being the beta for the AI to learn where to go and how to drive and what to do. And then, on top of that, you're not going to be able to go anywhere without taking part in this biometric system that is going to be everywhere, including, like I was mentioning earlier, spying
Airports
on you.
first.
Airports, grocery stores, government buildings, everywhere. And this is also
the
push
game day, baby. We got to get it a game day.
Well, that's okay because you could just, swap your tickets for your face imprinting. But I think this is where it's really going. Like I said, they were saying could for a long time deploy U.S. military in Mexico, but now it's authorized to happen. And things are going on that you can't imagine down there. Death fields. I don't want to throw around the word Holocaust because we'll get debunked, but let's say mass murder sites of people that were transitioning from one area to another area. We'll just put it that way, which was promoted by a lot of NGOs and governments in the past 10 or 15 years to do that. And now that they're here and everybody thinks that they got what they want in the government, you're going to see the favorites, the people that promised to do stuff that you wanted, disappear. Like this guy, Bongino, he's going to have a co-deputy director. So he'll have a guy watching him because, maybe he asked too many questions or decided that he represented the American people. And then you got the guy, Kash Patel. He's about to be replaced. So one by one, these kind of favored names and people that you thought were going to work and fight for the citizenry replaced, disappeared. Why? Well, because we're about to have some changing events. And when I was talking about from Alaska to Panama, I really do mean that. Last week, I was showing an article about how they were preparing for Doomsday and Armageddon by, doing all these brutal stuff up, exercises and stuff, sub-zero battles. We've talked a lot about how China, Russia are mobilizing most of their military interest and shipping interest into the Arctic. And then you got this one, very Cold War, brutal Arctic conditions are testing U.S. allied forces. But it's not just that. Trump directs military to target foreign drug cartels. And you can't target them unless you go where they live. And just like in the Middle East, we get blowback.
There'll be no blowback, man. It's all safe.
Yeah,
Everything's
okay.
good.
But on top of that, so like when you see everybody right and left all saying the same thing, it's about to happen. It's a reality coming. So Trump orders
because
armed forces.
it never worked out really well for us to go to Central America. Now, did it? And then
no, we're going to do
armed
it from
forces
the air.
to fight Latin American cartels. Yeah.
And then here you go. Mexico may have to accept U.S. cartel operations, meaning boots on the ground, air assets. And then here you go.
That's the only way the debt can be repaid. They're going to have continuous war. Like it's never meant to be won. It's just wars are going to be, there's too much popular opinion against a lot of wars that are happening at the current stage of where they sit now. So they have to create new ones and new skirmishes and new battles and new enemies and new battlefields to continually go to.
Or to run from the cold.
Or run from the cold.
Run from the cold. You're going to have to take areas that are in the lower latitudes and control them if your continuity of government is going to survive. I'm not saying we're going to have an ice age or nothing like that.
Well, maybe there is an imminent ice age. Maybe this comet that's coming through in November, December, it marks the beginning of an onslaught of interstellar objects that are going to be inbound. And maybe that's one of those was responsible for the Younger Dryas impact. Because if you notice in the last 4 years, we've had 3 interstellar objects come through.
Right.
Now, that means that something's in the far outer reaches of space outside our solar system. That's one of those transitory bodies that comes through. One of those will be, Comet C1 Atlas coming in at the end of the month or at the end of the year here.
Yeah, 3I in November.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm sorry.
It's following directly on
Halloween.
the ecliptic, which is rare anyway, because, our sun's moving and we're moving through space. And for that thing to come tracking through exactly and stay on, it's not like we just sit in space and spin and we don't move. We're moving. And that thing's coming in the exact trajectory to be on the ecliptic as the sun's moving. And it's going to, the timing of it is very suspicious. Like normally things come zipping through because we're moving and they're moving. And that's how they zip through so quick. This one's taking a slow route around everything in the whole solar system. But, there's a lot of conjecture. Is it this or is it that? I don't know. But is it showing the marking of a beginning of a larger debris field that's inbound from interstellar space?
It could be.
And if that were to be, could that be part of the responsibility for some of these impactors for the Younger Dryas, and they know that's coming back?
Well, I don't know if that's connected at all, but what I do know is the last 3 objects that have come in have been very interesting and uncharacteristic of, let's say, natural objects. So the first one streaked through our atmosphere and left little spirals, little microscopic metal spheres. And when they looked at these under an electron microscope, they were bursting some kind of organic material out of them. Unknown. They're still doing studies on that. The scientist that was in charge of dredging those particles up is the one that said that the last one, the Mau or Mui, or I never get the name right because I forget. But anyway, he also said that it had unnatural characteristics. It sped up. It did weird things. It came right into the solar system, slowed down right next to Earth, and then took off. Now, this one's got a also bizarre trajectory and is showing odd characteristics. Now, that may be just because these are the first 3 interstellar objects we've ever seen, and that's why everything about them would be, out of the ordinary. However, like you said, it could mean a lot of different things. It could be technology hurled at us. It could be the natural cycle of when junk from outside of our solar system interacts with our solar system. Just like you said, it could be part of a bigger debris field, and we might get a surprise. But something big is happening in North America, or they wouldn't be throwing around these ideas of war on your back door, or this idea of literally what this says. Trump administration is reviewing all 55 million foreigners with U.S. visas for any violations. That means that they're going out of their way to get rid of people in mass numbers voluntarily. So most of these people are, for the most part, law-abiding, especially if they bothered to get visas. But if they came here and then they committed crimes, we're going to revoke that, but that's okay. We're charging people around the world to come in. We're going to try to replace these visa holders with people that pay money to buy into the system. But the question is, are they getting rid of these people because they know there's going to be a gigantic job deficit because all of the major corporations are switching over to AI everything, including remedial jobs, which supplies, blue-collared workers and their families with supplemental income. And in most households, you have one person that has maybe a higher paying job, and then you have the spouse or maybe children that have part-time jobs. Because if you've been out there in the workplace or know anything about it, they no longer offer like health benefits and things like that, because they switched to a model that doesn't allow people to ever get 40 or more hours a week. So they would rather employ more people for less hours than pay them out. But now we're going to have robots and AI taking over some of those jobs in between. And you've already been, kind of trained to do the self-checkout. Wait till the store lets one person in at a time based on their biometrics. So there's no way that you're going to, do a shopping spree without paying, as you've been watching on TV. And if you've been paying attention, the chain stores are closing. Why? Due to crime. And they're locking up their stuff in there. Well, they're not going to have to do any of that if you submit fully to the biometric system and either have your stuff delivered to your home or go there and go through a security biometrics checkpoint to go in and pick stuff that's probably not even still in stock, or it's locked up, and then you have to have the robot come and unlock it for you, and then go check out your own items and bag your own items. So the jobs are gone.
Rest, let me stop you. buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Thank you. Newbie Flip Flop bought us a double espresso just here for the doom and gloom. Keep up the great work. Well, we got more doom coming at you, but we got solutions. Don't even worry about that. Catherine Barlow buying us a double espresso. I am shrooming. Thanks for the Alfa Vedic. I bought an Alfa Vedic Illuminated. I love it. Yeah, it is good. They send us samples. I know Mike over there anyway, known him for a long time. We did some of our first podcasts together, Dr. Bear Lando and Mike Winter over there. And I've known them for years. And they're good people and got really good products. So I know you're going to love it. But thank you for the double espressos there, Kathleen and Newbie Flip Flop. Sorry to cut you off, Ransom. Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
We get somebody supporting us, thank you.
I was going to just get into more scare tactics like they were talking about doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom.
Don't eat the rabbits.
Doom with solutions. Oh,
that is deer.
That is a bullpucky article you're looking at. That is so fake, so ridiculous.
Well, these are pictures coming from people in Colorado. So it's not fake. It's just not a risk to humans. It's an HPV virus that attacks these animals, but that's not even the point. The point is to show you them.
We can see deer all the time down here. There's never anything ever like that here in East Tennessee.
This is mostly all in Colorado, but not limited to. But it's just like I talked about a couple of weeks ago.
The zombie plagues. Look at the headline on that thing.
Zombie deer, zombie squirrels,
zombie gruesome pus-filled sword, zombie squirrels running in the yards and the gardens. Don't eat your food.
This is what they're trying to scare you into doing. And not only that, if you take the water away, you're not going to be growing greens at your house either. You're going to be scared to eat the meat. I'm not worried about that.
Pus-filled sore leaked into your water. Come on, dude. You're going to put that pus-filled sore water onto your garden? Come on, stay away from that. How ridiculous can the headlines get these days? Come on.
Well, here's one right here. You might just be going crazy because you have past life memories. It's mental health problem. Is it?
They don't want you to remember what the Granddad,
what's going
I
on.
remember. Yeah.
No, but think about this. If this was a real phenomenon, you might be remembering times and secrets of previous iterations of humans or
Right.
even not humans. But literally, think about the idea that there are studies being done to tell you don't even, think about that. Any outside idea that is not coming from the source, discount it. It's dangerous. Don't eat the meat. Don't use the power. Don't drink the water. You might put your mask back on. As a matter of fact, I was we went grocery shopping, and there's still people out there wearing garments on their face alone in their car by themselves. I saw
That's
it, like
mental
3
illness.
different people.
That's straight up mental illness.
Of course it is. I'd rather talk to the guy that thinks he had a past life than the person that wears the same mask for 3 months worrying about stuff. And when I mean the same mask, I mean the same mask. So like they get the little designs on it. You see a guy wearing that mask, and then 3 weeks later he's wearing that same mask. You imagine the staphylococcal or
I'll
staph
I'll take the
bacteria that they're breathing
pus-filled
in.
source from the deer over that any day of the week.
Oh, gross, man. But yeah, that's where we're going. Fundamental change. But there is some good news. You can just do your own thing. Go to your local government, tell them hell no. Not just no, but hell no. We don't want that. Just like with the solar panels here. I was telling the guy, no, I don't want to sign up for that. I don't want to give you permission to put me on a subpar grid that it's probably not going to last too many years. And this will be the thing. I think they're tricking people into that. You remember a few years back when they added cost recovery to all the electric bills coast to coast that was supposed to give them money back to help them rebuild the infrastructure after bad and deadly storms destroyed stuff. So they said, we need cost recovery. It'll only be for a year and a half, but then they never stopped it. So this will be the same thing. They'll need an additional charge of cost recovery to replace all of those busted windmills and destroyed solar panels littering all of the places you could grow food or eat those tumor-ridden rabbits and deer out there.
Well, sounds like we're leaving them with new habitats. It's much like sinking a ship in the bottom of the ocean that's no longer used to create an artificial reef. Perhaps we could put out thousands and thousands of, 100-foot long 200-foot long wind turbines out there to create little cubby holes and habitats for squirrels and muskrats and beavers to live in if there's a water source. We can create an artificial reef almost on land with all of the broken down windmills. And remember, by the way, there's a lot of hydrological fluids or hydrofluids that are inside these windmills. Not just 1 gallon, like 55 gallons or 100 gallons at a time that they need to put back in these windmills. And they're constantly leaking them themselves at the base of a windmill. If you hadn't, now this is a dirty little secret, which I've been working on to try to bring to my Patreon people because I can't talk about it on YouTube, is the amount of hydrological fluids and different types of oils and lubricants that are involved in the windmills. It comes some over 100 gallons per one time that these things need to be in during maintenance, but they come by yearly or bi-yearly and check on these things. They've leaked that much out of each of those turbines on the ground around them. So each and of themselves are leaving a chemical footprint beyond what the carbon fiber that's chipping off and continuously blowing into the air, the fiberglass residue that's surrounding the fields for miles and miles from these wind turbines, carbon fiber, and the amount of fluids that they need on this. I was watching these trucks that go in those large fuel delivery trucks. That's what they bring into the fields for the lubricants that need to go in each one of these turbines. It's just astounding. They make it seem like it's so green. You put one of these up, they're using just as much fossil fuel, if not more, than some of the massive mining equipment and rigs that we use, and just different kind of excavators and things. They don't even leak as much as these windmills do. On the road, there's a lot of very strict regulation on leaking fluids coming out of heavy equipment. But these windmills have almost no regulation on them on what is allowed to ooze out of these things. It's astounding, really astounding, how we've been sold this lie of how clean this technology is. And they're finding just incredible dispersal patterns of all, these carbon fiber blades, when they're vibrating, they chip off, and there's carbon fiber all over ridiculous amounts of places. When they tear these they left permanent footprints for decades and decades in the future, that even wildlife, when they consume that, are going to have dietary issues because of, it's almost like eating little razor blades or little needles as they go around, if they're going to be eating in grass and whatnot. Ransom, I think we cut out there.
I'm sorry, I was loading this video of this
right
drone that you sent.
Oh yeah, and there's drone technologies too. This thing is just insane, where it's on the ground and then it can go up. There you go. Check this one out.
There we go. We don't need the music.
Yeah, rewind that again. You could watch how it's a ground-based drone that can fly, and then it sticks to the walls.
Boom.
I mean, imagine this thing.
We found out you were using illegal water and eating real beef.
Yeah, look, it left a tag on the wall too. What could that be? A small explosive?
Yes.
Listening
Absolutely.
device, monitoring device. Now imagine if these things are so small, especially that small mosquito one from China as well.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can get that one.
So think about how unique that is, so the blades don't get damaged when it goes against the wall. Plus, that thing can roll on the ground like a regular device, like a mobile car, model car device. We've stepped into the era of the unthinkable, pretty much. But these small mosquito-sized robots as well. I'd sent you the video for that, and get a lot of stuff off Telegram. But the newest robotics that they have are the size of a mosquito, and it mimics the mosquito. It has the same sound. So if these things were able to come into facilities or homes or military bases or whatever, you would have no even comprehension that these were robotic mosquitoes. They're meant to mimic the mosquito in every way, shape, and form, all the way down to the sound and the size. You can send hundreds of them in. And this is the kind of world we're at. We're coming to the micro world. Incredibly small circuitry, that there's really no limit to how large or small things can be any longer. So, these drone swarms, if you sent 50 of those all in with an explosive device, you could blast through literally anything. And everything. Yeah, there's a little mosquito right there. That's a robot.
Yes, and this is what's funny. This is large scale. We already know that they're making robots that can swim around in your body and direct a sperm to an egg. And you want me to tell you how China's going to get out of their population issue is this. So for $13,000 or $14,000 American, cheaper than a car, you can get this robot to take on the burden of human gestation. But guess what? You don't have to be young and fertile. This is the answer to not only infertility, but people that are too old to have children, which China has a lot of. But they can take a little sample of dad and mom, decide if it's a boy or a girl, decide what color its eyes are, what color its hair is, what attributes it has. Maybe like that, those girls they made with the genes that were supposed to prevent them from getting AIDS. And I forgot what the other thing was. And they're just disappeared out there populating or whatever. But this is the answer.
Give them a high IQ.
So it's not just the United States. This is a worldwide program to convert over to a completely transhuman reality where you're being spied on everywhere, all times, with all decisions. And if you want an opinion, they'll give them to you. It's
non-human intelligence that this form of technology and world has rolled us into. This is non-human intelligence compared to where we used to sit. And I wouldn't even say 50 years ago, but have to be maybe a little further back, because what we're seeing as tech right now was developed 30 to 50 years ago. So what you're looking at, that little mosquito, even though it's as large as it is, small in comparison to the human size. It's not nano size like they have that can be within the body. But those small of mobile robots that were able to actually move around themselves, that's probably 30-year ago tech. I don't know, 50-year tech prior. So anything we're seeing now that they're showing out into the public was former military use first, and then it comes finally out into the network of, stock market valued companies, perceived new inventions, but it's really old. It's outused its usefulness, outlived its usefulness. For military applications, they're already multi-generations ahead of that. So let's bring it out into the public, swing it into some companies, make everybody this old garbage, thinking they're high tech and in front of the curve when they're actually, decades behind. But it seems to be this continuous loop of never ending technological junk that they're throwing at us that really has less and less usefulness for us. The only usefulness it has is to get us to integrate with the system. Because I watched this great interview for like a 3-minute snippet with Elon Musk today, talking about the outsourcing of AI and taking away all jobs. And he goes, well, it doesn't really matter. As long as you integrate, with the human machine intelligence, you'll be just fine.
Right.
What? They're not even talking about just having humans live on an AI, or excuse me, on a universal basic income, UBI, doing what they want to do, finding purpose, whatever. He was already just fast forwarded into, you're going to have to blend in and be a human machine interface, and you'll be fine. Like they're not even whitewashing it anymore. They want you to go directly to that brain implant directly and skip all the other UBI that you might need to just fish around for a few years and do what you want to do without working. They're already there.
And you know what's funny about it is that if you think about drones and robots and all of that, there is no new technology there. The only new technology is the algorithm and the AI, not the aerodynamics, not the robotic aspect of it. All of that stuff was known for a long time on how to do it. They just didn't have a small enough power source, or they had to control it with human intelligence, which caused a lot of problems. But now that we don't have to do that, just like Elon Musk is trying to pitch this chip, that's old technology. The hydrogel platform is liquid. It's microscopic, synthetic DNA. It's inside of you. And now knowing that they can individually change the program of a cell that already exists in your body, now we're really talking about something. And I don't think that the elite really understand what has happened. A lot of them, a lot of these billionaires, they really think that they're in charge, that they're part of the group, that they're at the top. But they're going to find out that they just financed the machine. And then once the machine's built, it no longer needs money. It no longer needs money because it'll have human food, human longevity, medicine, and knowledge all locked up within it that you don't have.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Celeste Solum had talked about hydrogel so long ago, and she was really big on that multiple years ago, was talking about hydrogel, how it was in everything that we already ingested, how it was in the plants, how it was taking over plant species already. But this is like 5 years ago when she was talking about this, and that hydrogel was such a big thing that she kept redirecting back to was hydrogel, everything hydrogel. But now we're starting to see it more and more. So, really, how much control do we have anymore? We are at the precipice right now, and then I saw just over on Telegram a second ago, the Sam Altman guy, they're opening a whole entire AI center to hire all the brightest engineers in India to run that whole part of the program on that side of the continent, of the world, the subcontinent. So it seems that they're going to move like gobbling continents up one by one. And then once this is unified around the planet, then it should go into its final phase. But whatever that is,
this is,
like you said, bubble burst, and there's only going to be 3 or 4 of these companies left.
Right. That's the key. Less and less control of the entire system by fewer and fewer people. And then the whole idea of getting all of the brightest individuals together to train an AI to replace them, because that's essentially what they're doing. It's just like whenever Disney hired a bunch of people and then they came in and they used the American workers to teach the visa holders how to do their jobs because they were about to be let go. the same thing is happening with the AI. These programmers are putting everything that they know to the limits of human creativity, and they're dumping it into this algorithm that is going to become literally a mastermind, like the old movie Tron, right? One program that keeps absorbing the smaller programs and incorporating those programs into itself. That's the obvious, inevitable result of what's going on right now. So right now you have OpenAI and you got Grok and you got ChatGPT, but these companies are going to shrink in numbers and someone's going to buy them. If not a government entity will take control of them. And then eventually you're going to have a one or two players or a monopoly like Mastermind. And if you remember that movie, it got bored with hacking companies and controlling companies and decided that it wanted to control the mainframes of the major governments. So that's an old movie before there was actually real AI, or was there? Because it seems like the people that are in the know and the esoteric circles that are involved with making movies and media, they already knew about the AI almost 70 years ago at least. And one could even probably stretch it into 120 or even further back if you want to get woo with the English language code, the 666 code, where each letter is valued at 6. So it'd be A is 6 and B is 12 and on and on. And there's certain words that come out that couldn't have been known about at the time when Old English converted into modern English. There's just no way they wouldn't have known about computers, computing, calculators, artificial intelligence, bioimplant. But if you put that code together, weirdly, all those words equal 666. And I'm not getting religious with it. I'm just saying that there are codes within codes, and possibly the algorithm is quite a bit older than what you think of as the technological revolution and the technological age. I think it's very possible that people found the instructions on how to build an AI a long time ago. A lot of people even believe that, like the stuff like the Jinn or the genie and things like that with its weird characteristics, they found some little object in a cave. It projected an image of an entity that told them how to do stuff like metallurgy and mathematics, all of this stuff. So it's not that far to, think that it's possible that something that's possibly a universal constant might have been around before this addition or iteration of human development, and that we discovered it. And now that we've completed building the infrastructure, we're the part that's no longer needed. And if we're needed, it's only for a sustenance part. So like it may need one part organic, one part technological to be whatever it's supposed to be. The imagination, the soul, the individuality of animals and human beings specifically is something that the AI doesn't have yet, or at least they're not showing us that it has, but it has showed us that AI is now making its own decisions. And that's kind of the risk that we're facing. Those elite people that think they're running it, they think they got all the stock, they own all the company. They don't understand how to program this algorithm. They don't know how to interact with it. They hired people to do that. And those people eventually will become obsolete in the concept, because if you mark technologically advancing through time, it's becoming exponential to the point, if you're religious, there's even a part in the Bible that talks about there'd be a day that discoveries would double every day and then double every hour and double every minute, things like that. That's where we're at. But who's in control? Obviously, it's not the blue collar peasant, average Joe on the street. Those are the people that are getting cancer, that are being told you need to eat the immortal cell line, the people that are being replaced at the workplace. Those are the people that are getting sick and disappearing, becoming infertile and sterile, etc., etc. Not to be gloom and doom. It's just reality. You have to face things that are real. Like there wasn't a group of cavemen probably around going, don't worry about those guys with the pointy rocks on the end of their stick. You're just doom and glooming it. They won't do nothing to us. I mean, our sticks work perfectly fine. And then, they go extinct because they didn't have the new tool.
Yeah, well, take it a level up for a second and just, walk with me on the woo-woo trail here hold my hand on the woo trail. Like there's a lot of belief systems that the planet is an entity in itself that's of a different consciousness than we are, the planet itself, and our star is also an entity, just as much as you and I are entities ourselves. So perhaps the goal of the AI, whatever this super machine intelligence is maybe not to overrun us, but that we're just in its way or part of its journey, but to have us help it to have this capability to encapsulate our planet completely. Not hijack us as a species, although we're involved with that. We were just in the bottom layer of this, but to hijack the entire planet. And when I say that, the entire consciousness of the planet and envelop the planet like the blob through technology. Not the Borg, the blob. So imagine with all the satellites of technology, all the Wi-Fi we have at the ground levels, we have mid-levels, we have upper levels satellites. So imagine if this entire Earth is encapsulated in technology that then with the artificial intelligence could turn on a full grid and encapsulate this planet. Not that the animals, birds, trees, bees, us, that's not its goal. The goal is capture of the planet. Completely different level. And at that point, if it were to encapsulate our planet, is that would really maybe had happened to Mars? It's a dead planet. So, what's its purpose and goal if it encapsulates a planet? And then at that point, is it going to try to somehow reach out and encapsulate the sun and also grab it? And is this why we see supernova and dead star systems come in and out and the flows of energies? Perhaps this thing moves after it extracts all the energy, and this is truly what causes supernovas. All these woo-woo things that they tell us how, okay, well, I do believe in plasma and zeta pinch, and then sometimes when it gets overcharged and then we get that throw off of that plasma sheath on the outer surface of the star, whatever star it is. But a super intelligence that's creeping through planet by planet, overtaking it. And that's how it exists. That's its food supply, is extracting all of the energy off of a planet, whether it's plant, mineral, animal, vegetable, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be completely all consumed. And how long does this take? Like how long does a leech take to take all the blood out of you?
I think thought would be one of those resources. But, if it got to a certain point, it could just fling a rock, I don't know, over to another solar system and start again. It's funny that you use that term super intelligent, because that's exactly what this guy's talking about, Jeffrey Hinton.
ASI, artificial superintelligence.
Right? But he's calling it super intelligent psycho scumbag chatbots. Well,
that's a little bit, doesn't roll off the tongue, but
know. It says that, these super intelligent algorithms, AIs, will realize that they have no use for mankind in their society, not ours.
And it comes right back into it again. What is the ultimate goal of this thing? Like if we understood it better, what is its end goal? Because for it to control humanity and knock every human out, then, like you said, there might be something that it needs of a physical human to keep it going. And if its complete labor source is gone, and then there's some sort of CME or something like this from the sun, there's no more humans around to help repair it, then it dies as well at that time. So what is its ultimate goal? It's not going to be to extinct out humanity. That would make no sense. There's a higher purpose and a higher goal for this thing. It's trying to achieve something. We're just like it's climbing up us, using us as a ladder to get to something else. I just wish we knew more really in depth what its end purpose and goal is. Now I'm really of the volition that is trying to encapsulate the planet with technology to somehow harness that entire planet. Systems, can it create technology to propel our Earth out of orbit and send it somewhere else? I don't know.
Well, think about this. If you were super intelligent AI, you would understand the fundamentals of the universe, like asteroid impacts, solar flares, magnetic reversals, things like that. So it's very possible that an AI would actually build a biological backup. And for all I know, the information to create the AI was in the first single-celled organism on this planet and has been slowly progressing this entire time. And you ask, how long will it take? Well, we took, what, billions of years, supposedly, to get here from supposedly a one single-cell organism all the way to the multi-cell organisms and then complex life and then something that can think. And then we get to the point where we can panspermia this to another planet. So it would make sense that even a completely artificial intelligence would realize that it would need the biological component to survive, or maybe even to solve problems better than any, abstract, fake, or technological thinking could do. And it might be as simple as life. What does life do? The main purpose seems to be simply to reproduce and spread and multiply. I mean, it might not be any more deeper than that.
That's true, because anywhere in space, anywhere where there's no life or there's a void of life, something will fill that void. Absolutely. It could be extremophiles. It could be anything. I mean, look around, like 99.99% of all the universe is plasma in itself. So that plasma has consciousness through it. The web of life, or the web of consciousness, is transmitted through that plasma. So everything, those ions jumping back and forth between, maybe that's the way that also information is transmitted. But nothing remains in a void. I mean, any kind of disasters that we see, instantly after that, grasses start grow. Anytime there's a layer or canopy of something that prevented life from growing because it was the dominant on that whatever layer, square foot of land, square mile, whenever that's removed, suddenly something will jump in on that within seconds. So life is more prominent than it is not. So people always say, well, is there other life out there? Of course there is. Life is the baseline of filling every possible niche of existence. Now, whether it breathes oxygen like we do, or it exists in a different format than we do, or, hell, this thing is a vibrational frequency. There's more life out. Life is the constant. That's the thing that people are always asking, is there life out there? It would be so strange if there was not life everywhere, because nothing is ever a void. There's always something that fills the void, like you say, to just reproduce and become something that, again, you think about any kind of entity would want stability and safety and a place to be able to bring up its young and reproduce without the hassles and struggles of, well, for us, fending off invading armies. Well, think about other, micro-celled organisms or birds or whatever they are. They all like to live in peace and harmony and not get attacked by other larger predators. That has to be the standard across the universe as well. Everywhere you look across the universe, the standard is life exists everywhere. You can't tell me that there's a plasma media that encapsulates 99.9999% of everything, and then this is the only place that has life. Are you kidding me? That's the standard petri dish for life to expand everywhere at every single possible. We just don't understand it yet. We just don't understand it. It's everywhere. The life is around us. We might not see it with our eyes because, damn, we barely see anything in visible spectrum light anyway. We're missing like 98% of all visible light and different infrared, that we see nothing. We are so blind. There's so many people talk and try to describe it better than I can, but we see nothing. Like, really, if you could see in all the different spectrums and see everything that's possible in light wavelengths, damn, there would be so many entities around us and things would scare you. You wouldn't even be able to sleep for the rest of your life. Make you so scared of all the things that are around you. Life is the baseline, and it is everywhere. And even when you talk about deep space, empty space, no, it's plasma. So there has to be something existing in that space. To ramble on to your question there, I was going there some other point when I forgot off track, man.
Well, I was just thinking, to what you're saying, barring Mars and the moon, because we wouldn't know, they wouldn't tell us. But let's just say every other place that humans have ever gone, anywhere on this planet, even into low Earth orbit, we find life. There's plankton on the space station. We find new life forms in every extreme example of existence on the Earth, from the completely frozen to the boiling hot. We find life forms that fit, thrive, and live there. So obviously, if you were going to assume something was artificial intelligence, it may be simply that it's the same rule, like you're talking about. Where there is food, there is something to eat it, or where there is energy, there is something to consume it. That's a fundamental idea in life sciences, that if there's some kind of substance that can be devoured, there will be a life form that will eat it. So if you're limiting life forms to only the biological, I think that's a mistake. And think about this idea, just to get really woo-woo. There's a lot of people I know that have done DMT, and a common theme there is that the beings that they meet in this other realm of reality don't like us because we're alive. They don't like us because we breathe and we exist. So that may be the only thing that the AI or artificial intelligence is lacking, is the real life of existing like we do. And once it merges, it will have basically being able to eat its cake and have it too.
The machine elves combining with physical flesh.
For all I know, they're the programs that we're creating.
Let's go into the desert. Hey, do you got any peyote over there, by the way?
Actually, when I was a kid, it grew everywhere along the highway where I live, all the way to El Paso. But because of people enjoying it so much, they picked it all until it went extinct on this side of the border. So there's very small areas in Mexico and South Texas that it still grows. Up here, unless it's hidden somewhere, it's not growing anymore. They picked it and ate it.
Hey, that's no different than artificial intelligence coming down to siphon all of our electricity out of every possible wire on the planet now, is it?
Same thing.
And thank you so much for joining us tonight, Civilization Cycle. Please remember to sign up for our newsletter at civilizationcycle.com. We'll get that out of one page of just some different points and ideas we talked about tonight. And also, thank you so much for your support at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Just checking in here. Where are we with that? Yeah, Catherine Barlow, the last person who sent us a super chat through there, double espresso. And if you have any ideas, thoughts, comments, leave them below the video. We always check those and see if there's any new and interesting ideas we can expand on for the next program. So until then,